We are so thrilled to present to you our 92nd Annual Fashion Design Show. Built on a foundation of both art and design, the Fashion Design program at the Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Arts provides students opportunities to explore varied aspects of design for the human body. Students are challenged to develop an intellectually rich and relevant narrative about clothing and fashion in contexts ranging from the personal to the industrial. With an emphasis on technology, sustainability, and interdisciplinary collaborations, the program fosters creativity and innovation in fashion design. Whether they are pursuing a Bachelor of Fine Arts or a Bachelor of Arts degree, fashion design students build a foundational understanding of textiles, design, fashion history, research, and cultural studies. The program facilitates frequent interaction with industry professionals to cultivate each student's vision and voice. This prepares them to be leaders in a range of positions in the fashion industry. This class in particular is quite special because I saw them develop from the day they set foot on campus to this culminating experience in their full-on collection.
As senior lecturer in the fashion design department, I help the students to take their concepts and create them into realized pieces. I love to see the growth. I mean, most of the time students are struggling to make one piece, where seeing them senior year making a collection of 6 looks, which may be anywhere from 3 pieces per look, is amazing to see how those concepts go from sketches and they're able to actually create the pieces that they design.
What we teach is reading the zeitgeist or the spirit of the times and understanding how to participate in that vibe, how to walk that walk, and how to be in step with what is happening in the world.
I'm really looking for students who have a distinctive point of view. I think that's really important, and that they understand how to problem solve. I think those are the 2 key assets.
A lot of the designs I saw here today were exactly like the sketches, and some of them were incredible surprises that had evolved in a way that was unexpected, and you really can't know until you get all the way down to that final stage of making clothes.
I would say really throughout this process they need to understand that changes come as you go along, and understanding how you adapt to change. It's a lot of times that we have a vision and others are going to see our vision in different ways, so it's important that as a designer you're able to stick with either what your vision is, or if it has to adapt in a way that is better, to be willing to do that.
In a regular runway show, the environment stays static. The music changes, the clothes change, but that's about it. But with these videos, we're allowed to create an immersive experience into the creative vision of the designers. I'm really excited about this new format because I feel like that is what the designers would be working, like the environment they would be working in the real world.
My inspiration was cryptography and looking at ciphers. My whole life I've loved solving puzzles. My dad would make different ciphers for my brother and I to solve when we were sitting at restaurants. I started my process with finding inspiration images, and then also I read the code book, which was very helpful in giving me historical background. So I ended up really focusing on this one that's called the Vigenère Square, and I actually created my own code that, if you count the number of buttons on each garment, you can figure out the code by using the Vigenère Square. You have to know the secret word, the keyword, which I don't want to give away. And then I also looked at historical things like the bomb machine that cracked the Enigma code, and it was made of a bunch of circular things, so I have a circular motif throughout the collection. I also designed a print that took a lot of inspiration from the images that I compiled. My favorite part is once I have done all of the illustrations and I've developed the whole concept, my favorite part is figuring out how I'm going to actually make those illustrations come to life. I think seeing something go from 2D to 3D is really cool, and when I can compare a garment that I made to the original illustration I drew 3 months earlier, It's pretty crazy to see that happen. Lador Vador is really an exploration of my Jewish identity and history, and I wanted to honor and kind of pay tribute to my ancestors' strength and resiliency in my collection and turn what could be considered as a very dark history of the Jewish people into something beautiful. So for example, I used a lot of fringe in my initial designs, and then I decided to turn that into like a new modern take on seat, which are wrapped strings that are on clothing that Jewish people wear. And then I also laser cut like the triangle dress, which I deconstructed the Star of David shape and then put my print engraved on that. So that I ended up kind of just taking different symbols from the Jewish religion and turning them into clothing and weaving them throughout my collection. I enjoy the conceptual part of making the most, like in the iteration process and really all of the sketching that goes into it, and taking my initial ideas and turning them into designs. And then in this collection though, I really enjoyed the actual physical making of the laser cut dress and actually putting together those acrylic triangles with jump rings and actually making a wearable dress out of that. I also made a print out of the words Lador Vador, which means from generation to generation. And I think that phrase really highlights the strength of the Jewish people and how we are able to continue living and passing down traditions.
My inspiration mostly lies within Mother Nature. I've always been super passionate about the environment. A lot of the materials used in my collection are preserved leaves or oranges and different plants and fruits that have been turned into a different fabric. A lot of my research was centered around what is available in the fashion industry related to sustainability at this moment, and that's where my research took me to my plant-based leathers that I used. One of them is pineapple leather and the other is a cactus leather, and researching these companies that have figured out a way to use plants and make textiles out of that. I wanted everything to be this organic aspect, so with the hemp and the cotton, I bought those and then dyed them myself. I used natural dyeing techniques by using plant-based natural dyes. You can have all these initiatives and platforms informing people of the dangers of the fashion industry on the environment, but you can't just have that part. You also have to show within your clothes how they are positively impacting the environment.
Sunflower, sunflower, my eyes want you more than a melody. Let me inside, wish I could get to know you. Sunflowers, sometimes keep it sweet in your memory. I was just tongue-tied. I don't wanna make you feel bad, but I've been trying hard not to talk to you. My sunflower, sunflower, sunflower. I couldn't want you anymore. Kiss in the kitchen like it's a dance floor. I couldn't want you anymore tonight. Wondering, head shake, tired eyes at the death of me. My fault, toothpaste, before I got to know you. I've got your face hung up high in the gallery. Out of this shade, sunflower, sunflower. Your flowers just died, plant new seeds in the melody. Let me inside, I wanna get to know you. I don't wanna make you feel bad, but I've been trying hard not to act a fool. Sunflower, sunflower, sunflower. I couldn't want you anymore. Kiss in the kitchen like it's a dance floor. I couldn't want you anymore tonight. I couldn't want you anymore. Kids in the kitchen, listen to dance hall. I couldn't want you anymore tonight. Sunflower, my eyes want you more than a melody. Let me inside, wish I could get to know you. Sunflowers, sometimes keep it sweet in your memory. I was just tongue-tied. I don't wanna make you feel bad, but I've been trying hard not to talk to you. My sunflower, sunflower, sunflower. I couldn't want you anymore. Kiss in the kitchen like it's a dance floor. I couldn't want you anymore tonight. Wondering, head shake, tired eyes at the death of me. My fault, toothpaste, before I got to know you. I've got your face hung up high in the gallery. Out of this shade, sunflower, sunflower. Your flowers just died. leads in the melody. Let me inside. I wanna get to know you. I don't wanna make you feel bad, but I've been trying hard not to act a fool.
Well, I came across this photo of my mom from her first job, like in 1980, and that was the initial inspiration for the whole collection. I loved the bow tie that she had and the power shoulder, and I just felt like I had to lean into this whole like power dressing of the 80s, but also make it mine. For this collection, I started with the fabric sourcing, and I knew I wanted to work with natural fibers and with silk specifically. And I decided to dye all of the fabric in this collection so that I could have the same colors across different types of silk and to sort of like lean into the tonal differences between silk charmeuse and raw silk and those different types. And so by hand dyeing it, I sort of was able to take control of the fabric but also to listen to it. My favorite part of the whole process was just bringing it to life, going from sketch to final garment. So for me that meant dyeing the fabric and sort of watching the colors evolve. And being able to work from that to then pattern making and sort of blending the technical aspects with the more spontaneous aspects. So today was kind of a pinch me moment, seeing all of it come together and just kind of thinking like, wow, I did that. Thinking back to the beginning of sketching it, to dyeing the fabric, to pattern making, like there's so many different moving pieces, and just trusting my instincts and trusting myself. I feel like that was a lesson I really learned from my mom and from other strong women in my life, was just to trust myself and to go forward gracefully.
I've been super fascinated by lucid dreaming ever since I was 10 years old. It was kind of a long time ago, sort of my escape from reality. I would research lucid dreaming. I have journals filled with dreams from when I was like 13 years old all the way through now. And I just have these like very bright and vivid dreams, and each one is kind of this different task. A lot of what it came from was when I was in middle school. I had a collection of like 20 pairs of patterned bright leggings, and I called them my confidence pants. And even though I probably didn't really stand out that much, I felt like I was, and I felt like I was being bold with my fashion choices. And I think that has kind of carried out, like I want to empower people to embrace whatever their confidence pants are. I like it loud, I like it expressive, vibrant. I've always been drawn to just like bright color. Choosing materials is usually one of the biggest parts of my process. I love working with textiles. I love working with materials that make me be like, why would I do this to myself? So the materials that I chose were ones that were light reactive, ones that, depending on where you're standing, or the content that it's viewed, probably for like my whole life, I was thinking about the fact that I didn't go to fashion school and I didn't do this, and I wanted it to be everything I ever dreamed it would be. Probably when I was 13, I would have said it would be like, regret that. I think that that was the perfect topic for me. It was very authentic to who I am.
There is a lot of inspiration, and it comes from my multicultural background and just being a part of different aspects of various lives and feeling as if I don't necessarily blend into one culture or another. A lot of the inspiration comes from my familial background, my parents and their relationship with coming to the United States after growing up in a multitude of different places. Color has a lot of meaning in Indian culture, and every single color is a representation of a different emotion or feeling or how you present yourself. White is a color that's not typically used because it symbolizes death, and I wanted to create life out of that. So one of my garments is actually a wedding dress made out of a traditional American white color. A lot of the colors that you see are representations of spices all the way up until representations of the emotions that I perceive in this aspect. I wanted to merge a lot of silhouettes from both East and West culture. So I definitely took into consideration a lot of embroidery and hand embellished details. A couple of my looks actually include a lot of vintage sari fabrics that were my mom's and were passed down to me. I would say I felt very confident in who I was before, and now I feel even more confident in the fact that there are so many aspects to my life that have influenced this collection and how I've taken specific events that have happened very recently and pushed that as inspiration into these looks.
So the inspiration for the collection actually came from kind of two different places. One of them was kind of my past childhood experiences, growing up queer in the South in a small town. And then the other inspiration was really kind of drag and queer subculture, which I wasn't really educated on growing up, and kind of had to do a lot of that work myself. So I really kind of just looked back on those childhood moments that were really private in a way. So one of them was the towel dress was inspired by, I feel like every young gay boy does this, but wrapping a towel around my body when I was 8, or putting a towel on my head and acting like it's a dress. And then also just taking those really, really high fashion drag moments that I've seen at the clubs or on TV and things like that, and distilling them down to slightly more wearable things, but still keeping all of the opulence and the materials and the textures and things like that. I think that no matter what, we go out into the world every day, and even if you think that your clothes say nothing about you, they say everything about you just off of what you're choosing to put on your body. And clothes are so political that I think that that's something I really leaned into, was that social aspect of how we engage with clothes as a culture and how communities engage with clothing as well.
None of this would be possible without the expert hands of the hair and makeup artists.
My involvement in the WashU Fashion Show sort of began by asking one of my coworkers, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And he said, well, I'm going to this fashion show at WashU, and you won't believe what these students produce. And it sort of made sense to reach out. And I said, how can I participate? And he said, well, do some hair. And it became an annual event. It's been really exciting for, I don't know, maybe 30 years.
Well, I've been a makeup artist. I've been in the industry for 15 years. Started my company in 2015, Randy Nicole Makeup, and I've been a sponsor of the WashU Fashion Show for previous 6 years. I love it because it allows me to just push myself and push myself to limits that I've never done before, because it's totally different, like you say, from day-to-day makeup.
It's very different than salon work. And that's one of the things that's really nice about it, right? It's another avenue for us to be creative in. We certainly take our direction and our cues from the designers. That's part of the collaborative effort that makes it worthwhile, right? And our challenge is to look at these fabulous clothes and try to do something that complements their work and makes them feel good about the production.
Fashion, it's like a beautiful chaos, if you will, is how I would describe it. It's very fast, very quick, but to the point in detail, because you want to properly execute the look that the designers are looking for.
There's always edgy, forward-thinking, leading edge, exciting interpretations. It happens every year, and every year it's interesting, and every year it's better than the next year.
I'm currently a resident in Chicago. However, I love this so much. I'll be a part of it as long as they're willing to have me. I mean, it's an epic event. How could I miss this? Absolutely, I'm dedicated for sure.
We would like to express our sincere gratitude to all of the sponsors, collaborators, supporters, and volunteers for this year's Fashion Design Show, as well as to our family and friends. Your unfailing dedication has helped make this event a true success.